Hello and welcome to the second practice of the Sports Junkie Podcast. Thank you for being here. I do appreciate all of your time and give yourself a hand. Give yourself a hand. There you go. There you go. All right. So, as we all know, my name is Adam Sports Junkie Khan, and we are coming to you live from the greatest city on earth, the city that never sleeps, Pullman, Washington. Oh yeah, that's right. Again, nobody knows where this is. I am on the campus of Washington State, as this is a Washington State basketball shirt. And that's where we are. So, as we all know, I put the timer up front, and it was about 17 minutes on that timer. And when that goes off, no matter where I am, no matter what I am talking about, we are going to be done for the show. That's it. We're done. Goodbye. I'll see you next week. Everyone ready to go? All right. Sounds good. So normally I would start with the worst thing I saw on sports television this week. We're going to start with something a little different this time because unfortunately, sadly, Washington State has lost a football player on their football team, one by the name of Tyler Helinski. On Tuesday afternoon, he was found in his apartment, dead. He had shot himself with a rifle and left a suicide note, as this was a suicide, and it was successful, unfortunately. And so I would say he was projected to be the starter next year after Luke Falk, who's going to the NFL. I don't think he had much competition behind him. He started in a couple games for us, or one game in our Holiday Bowl game this year. It was not the best performance, but he's only a sophomore, and so the experience wasn't there. But I was really looking forward to him. He had a different versatility to his game, and it was really unfortunate that we lost him this week. I went to his vigil on Friday night, and that was tough. Watching his parents walk out to his belongings and his jersey. It'll be weeks before I get the sound of his mother crying out of my head. And so prayers to his family, to the school, to the football team, to everyone who knew him and loved him, because we all did. I mean, I didn't know him very well, but it's just unfortunate. It really is. So prayers up to everyone, really. Now that that is said, I will be starting with the worst, or the next thing I will be doing is the worst thing I saw on sports television this week. As we know, there was an AFC championship game played today, and one of the participants was Tom Brady. And on Wednesday, he supposedly hurt his throwing hand because it got run into by a player. We do not know who that player is, though. And they said he was questionable to play. When I heard he was questionable to play, I thought to myself, what are the odds that the GOAT, the greatest of all time, would not play in the AFC championship game? What are the odds? And then I thought, they're about 1 in a billion. And that's because he is their best player on the team, obviously. There's no way he's not. There's a better chance of a tornado roaming through this school right now than of Tom Brady not starting in that AFC championship game. And he did eventually start, shockingly. Not shockingly at all. But then I did find out later that he actually got stitches in his hand, so it made it a little more controversial on whether he was or not. So I apologize on that. But excuse me, I still believe that he would have started regardless. I think even if he lost his index finger, I believe he would start because he's that valuable to this team. And for those who made this a huge deal, I didn't see where that was coming from. But eventually they did say he got stitches, so it obviously was a pretty big deal. But still, he's starting, he's playing, let's be honest. Let's go to the best thing I saw on TV. Stephen A. Smith on First Take on ESPN, he was talking about Markelle Fultz. You guys remember him, right? the first overall pick in last year's draft. Maybe you don't remember him because nobody's talking about him lately because he hasn't played a single game for the Philadelphia 76ers yet. And the reason is that because he was injured for a little bit, but now his shot is atrocious. He tried to change his shooting form recently because he wanted to better prepare himself for the NBA three-pointer. And there's videos around of his new shot, and it is one of the ugliest shots I've ever seen, to be honest. I think my shot is better, and I am nowhere in my basketball career. And what he was saying was the reason nobody's talking about him is because of one person, and that person's name is LeVar Ball. I know how much we all love LeVar Ball. And that's because he's bringing so much attention to Lonzo Ball and the Lakers, and which makes sense. He's talking so much about the number 2 overall pick, Lonzo Ball, when nobody has even brought up the number 1. Oh, somebody was picked before him, the number 1 overall pick, Markelle Fultz. And he probably will not end up playing this year because of his shot and or injuries. Not sure what it is at this point. But that was a great thing I heard, and I thought that was a very good reason why nobody's talking about him, because there's so much attention going on with Lonzo and some of the other draft picks that are doing really well right now in the NBA. And he's already being labeled as a bust, which is, it's only been a half a year and he hasn't played. That's a bold statement, but you never know. It could be true. So that was the best thing. I do have a second best thing I heard on TV today, and this has to do with Oklahoma's Trae Young. Now, if you have not seen Trae Young play, you need to immediately. He's playing on Tuesday night on ESPN against Kansas. I advise you to watch that game because he had 48 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds in their loss against Oklahoma State this past Saturday. Now, he shot 14 of 39 and 8 of 20 from three-point range. Now, this is why it was the best thing I saw. Jay Billis, an announcer for ESPN, an analyst, he was talking about how people are giving him a lot of problems. They have a lot of issues with Trae Young shooting so many shots and being kind of a ball hog on the team, if you will. Well, let me ask you a question. If you had a coach and they told you you have the green light to shoot whenever you want, you can shoot as many shots as you want, do whatever you want, and you know you're capable of making a lot of those shots, would you shoot him? I'll give you a minute to think about that. It's about a minute. Yes, you would shoot him. He's one of the best shooters in the league. He's averaging over 30 points a game and almost 10 assists, or over 10 assists, I believe. So, obviously, he's sharing the ball. He's averaging 10 assists a game, but he's obviously shooting the ball a lot too. But he's given that green light. He's given that opportunity to shoot as much as he wants because he is a lot of what they do, a lot of their team. And his shot is so pure. It's so perfect. His elbow's tucked in. It's so nice. And you think it's going to go in every time. It is Steph Curry-esque. I know it's a bold statement to say right off the bat, but he will be a top 5, top 10 draft pick, and he could bring that type of talent to the NBA. I truly believe that. So that was the second best thing about Jay Billis saying, yeah, you probably would shoot that much if you were given that light. All right, let's move on. Now, I believe there was some football played today. Yes, there was, and it was the AFC and NFC championship game. Let's start with the AFC championship game because that had a little more meaning to me being a New England Patriots fan, as I told you the first episode of this podcast. Now, the New England Patriots won 24-20. Thank you. It was a close game. Honestly, to me, did not believe they were going to win that game because Jacksonville's defense was just giving them so many problems. But obviously Tom Brady played, and so that throwing hand was not too much of an issue. He said after the game it wasn't horrible. He's had worse injuries, so that's good. He did end the game 26 of 38 with 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty good for a 40-year-old man. Let's remind you for that. Brandon Cooks, the new addition for the team, had 6 catches for 100 yards. Well done. And Danny Amendola, arguably the MVP of the game, because he had the game-winning touchdown, had 84 yards for 2 touchdowns. So phenomenal for them. Great. Now going over to Jacksonville. Blake Bortles does not receive a lot of credit. And there's a reason of that because their record the last 4 or 5 years with him has not been great. This year, it's different. They have a defense that he trusts, and they trust him. He threw 23 of 36 for 293 yards and 1 touchdown. That is a very good stat line against a New England Patriots team who is great in the playoffs. They really are. They have a track record of that, and it's pretty good. But their defense has absolutely been as advertised, Jacksonville. I mean, they caused so many problems for the Patriots in that first half, mainly three quarters. It was only that fourth quarter where the Patriots put up 14 points where they were able to come back and win this game. But their defense was stellar. And Leonard Fournette on that offensive side, their running back, he rushed for 76 yards and a touchdown. That man is going to be in the MVP conversation in 2 to 3 years. He has so much talent. He is such a beast of a running back, a big build. It is kind of crazy to see. It really is. And so I think Jacksonville is going to be a team in the future, in the next few years, to be reckoned with. They have a solid quarterback, they have an amazing defense, and they have a really, really good running back. That's kind of all three phases. That's really what you need. And quality receivers. And their best receiver was out of this game, too. So, very good team. They're going to be very good in the next few years. Very happy the Patriots won this game, though. Definitely got worried near the end, but, this happened. We're good, and we're ready to move on to the Super Bowl. Woohoo! Now, let's look over who we're going to face. So, I watched about a quarter of this game. We'll say a half. We'll say the first half. At the end of the first half, the Philadelphia Eagles were leading the Minnesota Vikings 24-7. At that point, I did not see the Vikings coming back, and they did not. Nick Foles, the backup quarterback for Philadelphia, threw 26 of 33, 352 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, that is a almost perfect QB rating. A perfect QB rating is around 152.4, I believe. I believe it's going to be, in the end, I haven't looked at it yet, it will be probably between 145 and 150. That is outstanding. And remind you, he's the backup quarterback. Now, before I go back to the game, what do you do if you're Philadelphia? You have Carson Wentz. He tore his ACL. You have him now. Do you consider trading him for assets? He's going to be your backup next year because Carson Wentz, he's a little bit better than him. He's probably much better than him, but he's just playing very well right now, Nick Foles is. And Wentz had an MVP-like season. If he didn't get hurt, he'd probably be the MVP. But I think you got to trade Nick Foles. He's at his good time in his career. I don't even believe he's 30 yet. And I just don't see him being valuable as a backup QB because unless they think Wentz is going to get injured constantly. But I think there's a lot of assets they could gain from him. So that's just me. We'll see what they do in the offseason, though. The Eagles are not respected as a team, to say the least. They are home underdogs for the second straight week, first against the Falcons, now against the Vikings. And they have won both of those games. Now, the Atlanta game was a little closer, but this one, the final score was 38-7. I'll let that sink in. 38-7 in an NFC Championship game. Granted, the Vikings their quarterback is Case Keenum, another very good quarterback, threw for 271 yards and a touchdown, but 2 interceptions. But he's their third string quarterback, technically. They have Teddy Bridgewater, they have Sam Bradford, and Case Keenum. Obviously, 1 or 2 of those guys have to go after this year. Case Keenum did great. He might be the starter next year, for all we know. Teddy Bridgewater was injured most of last year and a lot of this year, but he was their starter before. So that might be a question of they might have to bring him back in, and I think they might. And Sam Bradford did very good before he got hurt, before Keenum replaced him. So I think one of those has to go, and I'm not sure what they're going to do about who's going to be their starter. I really don't. So now that we have the Super Bowl matchup set, we have the New England Patriots versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And that is going to take place in Minnesota. I feel bad for the Minnesota fans who already bought their tickets to that game because they were hoping Minnesota was going to be there, the Vikings. Unfortunately, no. But I think this will be a very good game. Philadelphia's defense is very good, like Jacksonville's, but probably not as good. But, I mean, the Patriots, as a Patriots fan, I can't root against them. I don't care who they're playing. I don't think they'll be underdogs. They won't be underdogs. They'll probably open as a 6 to 7 point favorite in this game. They'll show the Eagles, I think they'd be a 10 point or 9 point favorite if the Eagles didn't convincingly win this game. But the Eagles won so handily that I believe the Patriots will be just a lesser of a favorite, but still the overwhelming favorite to win this game. And I hope they do win this game, and we'll get to an in-depth preview next week on this podcast, so we'll look more into that later on. But now we have our Super Bowl matchup set for 2 weeks, February 4th. I look forward to that. All right. Now that we've covered football, let's move to a little NBA. Obviously, there's a little NBA going on this week. My Sacramento Kings did not fare well. They went 0-3. They are now on a 7-game losing streak, which is rough because they play the next five games on the road. So let's hope they can get a few of them. They're a very young team, but enough said about that. The NBA. There's been a lot of fights. A lot of fights have been happening, and it's a problem. It's become an issue, and I believe Commissioner Adam Silver needs to handle it a little bit better. He's done fine. He's given suspensions, a couple games here and there. I think he needs to put his foot down and make a bigger stand on it. I think he needs to say, all right, 5 to 7 games, you're out. Both you. No matter what, who did what, you were both involved, just out. He needs to make a statement because it's not good for the league. It doesn't make them look good at all. I mean, so it's tough. I mean, he's got a tough job, but 2 games is just not enough for me. They just need a little bit harsher on those, and he can. He definitely has the authority to make those decisions. So we'll see if those continue. Let's hope not. But it is a little bit entertaining sometimes, But we'll see. I believe they will continue a little bit until Adam Silver brings down the hammer a little bit harder. Moving on to the Warriors and the Rockets. They played this past week, last night, and the Warriors lost for the second straight time to the Rockets. And I believe these two teams, oh no. I'm going to finish. The timer is done. I did say that's where we usually end, but I just want to finish the statement really quick. The Rockets are 17-0 when both James Harden, Chris Paul, and all three, and Clint Capella are healthy. So when all three of those play, they're 17-0. They're good. I believe the Warriors and Rockets will meet in the conference championship, and I believe it will be whoever makes more threes or whoever makes their shots will win the game. No defense will be involved whatsoever. That's kind of where I'm at. And real quick, last note, Washington State basketball, repping it, they lead the nation in 3-point field goals made per game at 12.1. That's pretty insane in the nation out of everyone. Look at that, little Pullman representing, right? Yet they continue to lose, and not great for them, but they'll find a way. I have confidence. All right, timer went off. We're good to go. That is my show for the day. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Let's get another quick round of applause from everyone. If I can find the applause button. There it is. Like so many people. Not button. I mean the audience, right? Audience is all over. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. And as always, I don't have a saying yet. Thanks.